Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 230 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. And today's episode is on what makes an effective therapist. And it is Saturday the 23rd of September 2023 as I record this. So this is a great, really fun podcast episode today, which instead of looking at the therapies themselves, we're actually going to look at the therapist and what actually makes them great, because we can all have the exact same degree, but as you can probably guess, some people will be better than others. So why? So that's the question that we're actually going to be exploring in today's episode. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. A lot of food for thought, but thankfully though, all of these things, if these are areas of our weaknesses, then we can actually improve it. So you've got that to look forward to in the content part of today's episode. So moving on to the psychology news section, we're reading from the British Psychological Society's Research Digest, and the first one is, seeing ourselves reflected makes art more enjoyable. What makes certain visual artworks appealing to us has been debated for centuries. The features of the artwork certainly plays a role, but when it comes to how much we like any given piece, it's often a case of different strokes for different folks. What brings us to the equation is a vital part of the puzzle. A new investigation suggests whether or not someone finds a work of art beautiful and moving has more to do with how well it resonates with their sense of who they are than any particular feature of the image itself. Okay, so I think it's quite an interesting one because this touches on the cognitive psychology of perception and how art works. Personally, I'm not a great art lover, or no, I don't like abstract art. Hate abstract art, and that I've mentioned on the podcast tons of times before. However, if there's a nice painting, I guess that could be nice to look at once in a while. But it's more photography that I quite like, even though I have no photo books, and every so often I do sort of pick up a really nice photo, but besides from that, art is just not my thing. And I guess part of it's just that I'm not that moved by different pieces of artwork, but I know that some people are, and I know that some people absolutely love art because it's so wonderful. And I guess I have noticed that that is a certain types of people, and I guess that when some of my artsy friends that have actually spoken about artwork, they do tend to use words that they use to describe themselves and also the art piece. I do understand how this makes sense. What do you think? So moving on to the second one. Meta-analysis finds small benefits from small breaks. Taking irregular breaks to rest and recuperate is vital. Timing breaks appropriately could spell the difference between well-paced productivity and a scummaging to the midday slump. Longer breaks, such as days off, are usually refreshing to even the most tired worker. But research suggests that's not the only way to rest effectively. Even extremely briefer breaks, called micro breaks, often no more than 10 minutes taken between work tasks, may also do the trick. In a recent study published in PLOS1, researchers looked closely at existing literature on micro breaks, seeking to understand not only how effective they are in enhancing well-being at work, but also who might benefit the most. And then if you want to look at the summary of the analysis, then go over to the BPS's Research Digest website. This I cannot agree more with because, yeah, because my ideal working day is 1 hour, working sessions where I get tons done, and then I have ideally half an hour break. That works really well, for me, and I can do that for ages, spread that throughout the day. Yes, that's how I tend to work, and those short breaks really are really refreshing though, and they're really, really helpful, but just never work solidly because one, you get so bored so easily, and also it just makes everything a drag, and it's just really, really bad. So definitely try and do micro breaks. Definitely don't be a workaholic. I know that from experience, and just have your breaks. So the last one is eco labels help us eat more sustainably. And this is going back into the Research Digest archives. So let's dive into it. However, as research we covered late last year shows us, there are small nudges that can help us along the way. Findings by Kate Deloyd at the University of Bristol and her colleagues showed that highlighting the environmental impact of food choice effectively steers people towards more sustainable options. And this is something that we did actually cover on the podcast last year, and this is really an important though, especially after the year that we've had though, with the wildfires, the worsening climate crisis, and all of the really interesting research which is actually coming out about it. But though, so eating more sustainably is definitely important, and that's why these nudges are really critical going into the future. So if all of these foods and all of these drinks, to be honest, actually mention their environmental impact, then I think the benefits are twofold. One, that people will more likely actually go towards the sustainable options, but also hopefully it will help improve the actual companies themselves but actually be more sustainable, just they can become a more attractive option for consumers. Hopefully without greenwashing themselves. So I hope you enjoy the psychology news section. So let's move on to the personal update. So we're moving on to the personal update. So this week it was a welcome week though, and I've actually got a few different points that I want to make here. So first of all, for the first time ever in Welcome Week, this is technically my 5th year in psychology because I did a 4-year undergrad because of my placement year. So for the first time ever, I've decided to do stuff at Welcome Week, which, to be honest, anyone can actually do. Whether you're a brand new student, technically like me, because I'm a new master's student apparently, and also if you're in the first year of your undergrad degree. Speaking of which, you definitely feel old. I'm 22 now, and I feel really old, compared to the baby face 18-year-olds that's coming in. Anyway, though, so for the first time in my life, I've decided to be social during Welcome Week, and there were some good events. I met some great people, had lots of fun. There were some really hard moments during this week because of this summer, but it was really, really fun though. So if you're a university student, then I hope you had a good Welcome Week because they are a lot of fun. That and I've actually thrown myself into quite a few different societies this week. And in case you're international listener, then what a society is that in the UK is basically a adult social club university that's formed around a particular interest though. So I've actually got a picnic later on which I'm going to, and some of my friends have actually going there. So that'd be good to be more social because Wow, yeah. Basically, this week's hammered home how much I do not have a social life, which is quite funny, a bit depressing, but lots of fun though. But because I'm trying to do the whole self improvement and whole personal growth thing, it's tiring. But then the only other thing that I want to mention is that if there are any master's students here, something I think is quite funny is that yesterday I had the postgraduate barbecue done by the School of Psychology at my university, and I my plan fully was to go there, talk to tons of people, hopefully form some connections and everything. And I got there, and everyone was in their small, little groups because amazingly, everyone was actually on time for a change, which I was actually quite shocked about. And if you were not that socially adept, or if you have trouble making friends, then I think that well, I think that the general strategy is that you find a group, try and insert yourself in in those conversations, and after a while they actually start to including you, and then that's when friendship magic can happen. That really did not happen because the weird thing about masters is that everyone's talking about their research interests, how exciting they are, and how brilliantly they did in their undergrad. And I was just sitting there thinking, I want to talk about other stuff because I do not have a massive research interest that I'm so passionate about. I just want to talk endlessly about it. And I was listening to this person talk for 10 whole minutes about something I did not understand, and it was something to do with a cognitive psychology, but at a really advanced level. So it was interesting, and I was just nodding along, trying to seem interested, and I walked away from that conversation thinking, yeah, I'm nothing like most of these masters students. Yeah, students. So if you ever find yourself feeling like that, then you aren't alone. I think you're probably quite normal. But also, though, I think that because of whenever the new academic year starts, I always feel a bit, not so much unsettled, but I always feel quite nervous because I've had the whole summer about my own routines. But then the new academic year brings in a new structure and a new routine. So it always takes me a few weeks to actually get back in to the swing of it. But I'm looking forward to my masters, and I hope that I can just start making friends on my course though, because lots of them, I don't know, they seem way like they seem intensely into psychology, but not as intensely as I am, because my version of intense psychology is the podcast, me following basically whatever interest I have. But their version of intense psychology is literally focusing on one topic, and it's all they want to talk about. And it's like, no, that would just bore me too much. So interesting times ahead. And as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave comments at the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet me on Twitter at sci-fi whiteley. I always love to hear from all of you because it really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And you can always comment on the Facebook post at Connor Whiteley, psychology author. So today's episode has been sponsored by Careers in Psychology, a guide to careers in clinical psychology, forensic psychology, business psychology, and more. So this is an absolute brilliant book that I flat out loved because it came out in January and it always sells a few copies every single month. But because the people really like the engaging tone, the information, and how it covers the breadth and depth about careers in psychology, because there are simply tons. There are so many different career paths that you can do. But for example, yes, you can become a therapist, but you can also become a academic, a researcher, someone who works in organizational psychology, so a HR department, and then there's also tons of other great career paths. So If you're interested in a psychology career, then definitely check out this great, really easy to understand book that contains tons of great information. I know that tons of people find it useful, so I know that you will too. So that is careers in psychology, a guide to careers in clinical psychology, forensic psychology, business psychology, and more. Available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get the paperback and the hardback version from Amazon, your local bookstore, or local library if you request it. And you can buy the ebook directly from me at payhip.com/Connor Whiteley. So, whilst buying books helps to support the editing and the creation of the show, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons, and as always, a massive thank you to my patrons, because your support shows that you like the show and that you want it to continue. So, if you want to become a patron of the show and get tons of great rewards, then you can now become a patron at patreon.com/The Psychology World Podcast. So that's enough of the personality. Let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about what makes an effective therapist. And because I've already done quite the introduction to it, and we're actually going to be looking at 5 different research findings, I'm actually just going to dive straight into it. You can have mental health difficulties and still be a great therapist. One of my favourite research findings about psychotherapists comes from Polinsky and all 2011. They found that after graduation, the vast majority of therapists have actually been in therapy themselves. This happens for a very, very wide range of reasons, and this brings us to an important topic within psychology. Everyone thinks that to be a therapist, you shouldn't have any mental health difficulties, and that you shouldn't have anything wrong with you. And for that I say in air quotes, because of course, just because you've got mental health difficulties, it doesn't mean that you're messed up or there's something wrong with you. And if you do, then that you will simply fail as a therapist. None of that's true. This has no basis in reality, and this isn't reflected in the literature, mainly because everyone experiences personal growth, and this growth can take a lifetime. Of course, unresolved trauma and other mental health difficulties can leave us vulnerable to being psychologically triggered by the experiences of our clients. This becomes a problem when it leads us as current or future therapists to experience empathy failure, advice given in nested therapy, emotional distancing, and even disassociating in therapy sessions. Thankfully, I think one way to actually test if there's a area of psychology or therapy, therapy that you get triggered by, is whenever you're taught a certain topic and you get triggered by it, then this is a warning sign that you might have issues to deal with. Personally, I definitely agree with this point, because since I was talking to a friend quite a while ago now about how my ideal clinical population is transgender people, but my friend pointed out that the topic of suicide and self-harm will certainly come up. And that was before I went to therapy, and even during my trauma lectures last year at university, I was seriously uncomfortable. I think they were some of my most productive lectures, simply because I wouldn't focus on the content. I would just sit there on my laptop, mainly to actually just get the attendance covered. But anyway, though, I just did not pay attention. I listened to it so often because my favourite lecturer was actually doing it, and she is brilliant. I would love to have her on the podcast at some point. Anyway, so actually going back to the blog post. So it would be interesting to see how my journey of healing has helped me with these topics from my future clients. I think I could deal with them, and I think I could actually help the clients now, but until I get experience with them again, I simply won't know for sure. Overall, if you have mental health difficulties, it doesn't automatically mean that you'll fail as a therapist. Personal qualities are important for therapy outcomes. One finding that should come as no surprise to you wonderful podcast listeners is that a therapist should have certain personal qualities that are strongly linked to improved therapy outcomes. A good therapist is comfortable with emotional intimacy, can tolerate strong emotions in themselves as well as other people. They're empathetic, have healthy personal boundaries, and they can hear and take criticism without being defensive about it. Of course, there are other additional qualities that would be great in a therapist, but there's some of the most important factors shared by good therapists. As a result, if you've just listened to that short list, then rate yourself on these traits. See how good you think you are, and see what traits you could work on to improve. Because I know that I'm currently working on healthy personal boundaries and empathy, because I'm not perfect, and that's okay. Most therapeutic models are equally effective at treating most mental health conditions. Thirdly, the dodo bird effect proposes, and it is supported by research, that most models of therapy are equally effective for most types of mental health conditions. Although this isn't saying that therapeutic models don't matter, because they seriously do, and I think they can be extremely useful in guiding a clinical practice. But this is why you need to pick the models that you feel comfortable with. It doesn't really matter what models you pick as long as you like them, and this liking will help you to be more confident, happier with your work, and this confidence will come through your work with your clients. For example, I really like cognitive behavioral therapy, systemic therapy, and the person centered approach because they really resonate with me and how I like to work. Therefore, I would never choose a graduate program with psychodynamic work because I hate it, and that hate I would show in my therapy work with the clients, resulting in that only harming them and my job satisfaction. However, I would say as a counterpoint, know when you can't help someone because there are better people to help them. For example, going back to my own point, as much as I love CBT systemic and person centered approaches, and I do hope to be qualified in them in the future, if anyone came to me and I thought acceptance, a commitment, a therapy, or in maternal family therapy would be better for them, then I would send the client to those specialists because I couldn't help them as effectively as they could. I think all therapeutic models have their place to some extent. So, as future or current psychologists, we need to understand what other specialists are better to help our clients. Different graduate programs don't make a therapist more effective. Personally, I don't know if this is a very US centric point because I had no idea there were so many different types of degrees, and some of these I don't actually recognise in the UK. But it turns out that the longer you study doesn't make you a better therapist. For example, it doesn't really matter if you have a Masters of Science, Arts, Education, a PhD, a Psych D. I'm not sure what that is. I've never seen that in the UK. An MD or a Masters of Social Work. Whilst it will certainly impact your career opportunities and the sort of the career you end up doing when it comes to therapy, it doesn't make you more effective. And as much as you might be doubting me, it is very strong research finding that it has been replicated in tons of studies, according to Christian and Jacobson, 1994. Of course, this isn't to say that all graduate programs will give you the same learning experience, Since if you want a PhD, then this is great if you want to conduct research and go into academia. If you want to do a Psych D, then this is great if you want a lot of supervision and classroom learning. Then, and if you want a Masters of Social Work, then this might offer you a wider community way of looking at mental health. However, the point remains, according to the research, the extra years of training offered by a doctoral program doesn't make someone a more effective therapist compared to a shorter degree program. Experience alone doesn't make a therapist more effective. Lastly, in the UK, there is a large focus on the reflective practitioner model that focuses on clinical psychologists reflecting on their practice and finding new ways to improve. This is exactly what we need to do if a therapist ever wants to improve, since feedback is important in clinical practice and it allows us to learn and adjust the way we work based on it. There's a great article called "The Secrets of Super Strengths" that are linked to in the reference section below, where some psychology researchers discuss how the best psychotherapists routinely get feedback from their clients, and they actually listen to it by adapting their practices in the process. Personally, I totally understand this because our clients are the people that we are trying to help. So why wouldn't we go to them to get better? It is useless for us to only talk to our peers and our supervisors about our working practices, because these aren't the people we're trying to help. It is our clients that are our reason into the office every day. So it only makes sense that we get their feedback and take it on board. Of course, this is flat out scary at times, and I could not imagine asking a client for feedback, because what if they're mean? No, what if my ego gets hurt? And all of those other very human fears. However, a large part of therapy is being vulnerable and letting go of our egos. We aren't perfect. Our work will never be perfect. And sometimes we just need someone to tell us something, and then we can realise that we're doing something wrong, and we can actually end up fixing it. Doesn't that sound like what we say to our clients? So why don't we allow our clients to do the same for us in terms of feedback? Maybe you were too pushy, rude, or insensitive about asking a certain topic. Maybe the client found your polite laugh hurtful or something, and I've actually got a story about that. So I was actually in a counselling assessment this week, and one thing that did annoy me was how smiley and how much the woman interrupted me. I would have finished the sentence, but this is hard to talk about, and it's just so annoying. And I'm so glad she won't be seeing me, because I really didn't like her, and yet because she didn't want the feedback, I just couldn't tell her, and she might have actually annoyed another client that really needs her help, and that's just a thought. Conclusion. When it comes down to it, our graduate programs that give us the knowledge, tools, and techniques to improve lives and become therapists. Yet ultimately, it is down to us as human beings to become good therapists. Mainly because therapy really is about relationships and two humans together in a room talking, bonding, and wanting to help the person in distress. No graduate program can teach us how to be a better human and a better listener. That all comes from within a person, but this isn't fixed. We can become a better therapist and people over time. And if you remember those five features of what makes an effective therapist, then you might be well on the way to improving and helping so many other amazing people that walk into your therapy room, hoping that you can help them decrease their distress, improve their life, and hopefully change their life for the better. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. I know that I did it because this is a really important topic there, because to be honest, I think so much of the focus when it comes to psychology is just like grades, essays, and just our graduate programs. But to be honest, the thing that really makes therapy work, and the thing that makes the clients feel so great about themselves and their therapy experiences is the person themselves. Like, I could not care less about the graduate programs that my therapist over the summer did and actually didn't have. She was great because she was a great person. So that I cannot recommend enough. So it's really interesting though, and this is a really important topic to actually focus on from time to time. So if you know someone who enjoyed today's episode, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And if you wanted to learn more, definitely check out Careers in Psychology, a guide to careers in clinical psychology, forensic psychology, business psychology, and more. Available in all the usual places, and you can buy the ebook directly from me at payhip.com/Con And if you want to become a patron of the show, then definitely check out patreon.com/The Psychology World Podcast. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at conwhiteley.net. So have a great day and I'll see you next time.